Welcome back, class, to our television unit, Chapter 8. And I'd like to start here with who produces these shows. So the shows that you watch on television, some of them are produced in-house at networks or cable channels. They might have a division that does original programming. However, a lot of TV shows are produced at production houses that are outside of these cable channels and networks. So as you can see here, some are part of the networks like American Broadcasting, CBS Studios, Warner Brothers Television Studios, 20th Century Studios, but a lot of them are other outside production houses. Fremantle, they do a lot of game shows. Happy Madison, you might know that one from special famous comedian from Saturday Night Live. Anyone? Adam Sandler. Beacon Pictures, Stars Entertainment, Sony Pictures. Sony does a lot of soap operas and a lot of TV shows. Half hour and hour programming, Miramax. So you've probably heard of a lot of these, but those are some of the production companies, and the list goes on and on. This was just the first page that came up on the web that I put here. So exhibition. Before the switch to digital transmission in June of 2009, TV stations were divided into VHF, which was very high frequency, channels 2 to 13, or UHF, which was ultra high frequency, channels 14 to 69. Most local stations are network affiliates. So for instance, or they could be something called an O&O, which is an owned and operated. They would be owned and operated by the network. Like, for instance, NBC owns WNBC in New York, which is the New York local affiliate. It's actually an O&O, an owned and operated station. KDKA Pittsburgh would be the CBS owned and operated station there. You probably know of some more of these types of stations like WJLA here in DC. Most TV stations are not affiliated with networks, are called independent. So there are like WPGH in Pittsburgh was an independent station for a long time. Then they got bought up by Fox. But we do have a lot of independent stations that are not affiliated with a network. So ownership in the TV industry. All major networks are owned by conglomerates, it seems these days. NBC is owned by Comcast, NBC Universal, ABC is owned by the Walt Disney Corporation. CBS is owned by Paramount. Fox is owned by Fox Corporation. CW was the joint venture with CBS and Time Warner, so you get the C and the W there. The Telecommunications Act of 1996 allowed an owner to own more stations in one local area. We talked a lot about this in our radio unit. There's no ownership limit unless combined reach exceeds 39% of the U.S. population. And big groups control most TV stations in the top 100 markets. So let's talk about commercial time. There are three types of advertisers. There are national advertisers. So those types of commercials would air anywhere in the United States. Those national spot advertisers could include like car companies, maybe Cadillac or Toyota. You have local advertisers, maybe for like Coons or something like that, a local automobile dealer, but that would be a local ad. Bigger ratings equal higher costs for airtime. So as we know, the commercials during the Super Bowl are in the millions for a 30-second spot. And TV shows also generate revenue from product placement. So you might see a Coke bottle in a TV show, or Reese's Pieces, that was part of ET, but you might see some type of candy bar or a soup can. Text messaging fees, that also applies sometimes during TV shows. So the money in TV industry has been profitable since 1950. Advertising or paid for time on television station. Higher rated shows get higher ad fees. So if you have a show that gets really high ratings, of course the TV advertisers are going to have to pay more for time in that show because more people are watching, or more eyeballs, as they say. Syndicated fees, paid for programs are so popular the audience wants to see them again and again. Also programs like Access Hollywood produced solely for syndication. Subscription fees. Your monthly cable bill is actually divided up to pay all the channels on the cable system. So now your subscription fee for cable sometimes does include things like Netflix, Hulu, Max, but you also have separate, maybe you don't have cable, so you have to pay for your Netflix, Hulu, Max, etc. With your own subscription fees to each one of those. And of course, there are many, many more. There's Disney and so many more packages that you can get out there for streaming. So where does the money go for a network or a TV conglomerate? Well, they have to pay production costs. And here are just some ideas of how much it costs to produce a show. So the TV show Glee was about $4 million per episode, or $83,000 per minute. Can you imagine? Friends was about $350,000 per minute. Cobra Kai, $2 to $3 million per episode. Bridgerton, $7 million per episode. Big Bang Theory, $9 to $10 million per episode. So distribution, broadcast networks have to pay the affiliate stations a fee to run the programs. TV stations and streaming services spend billions on original programming, with some companies like Comcast, NBC Universal, and Netflix allocating significant portions of their content budgets to original content. So producing original TV shows can be extremely expensive, with budgets ranging from $1 million to over $15 million per episode for hit shows, covering everything from cast salaries to set design. So just moving to the bottom here, Comcast, NBC Universal is projected to spend $22 billion on programming and production in 2024. Amazon, about $22 billion. Netflix, about $20 billion. Disney, around $19 billion. And Warner Brothers Discovery is projected to spend about $15 billion. So where did all that money go? Network programming is very expensive. And we have a couple numbers here on how much sitcoms can cost, but as you know, they vary by show. Quiz and reality shows are a lot cheaper. And programming costs account for about 35 to 40% of a local station's expenses. So a lot of money goes into programming. Production, super expensive though. Don't forget production. Okay, public broadcasting has existed in the U.S. for more than 40 years with the 1967 Public Broadcasting Act. Corporation for Public Broadcasting, CPB, Public Broadcasting System, PBS. They produce all those good documentaries and kids shows for you. Maybe you watched as a child. Sesame Street, Electric Company, Curious George, Caillou. You probably remember some of these growing up. Competition from cable channels, of course. The more competition out there, the harder you have to work to get hit shows and keep your audiences. Reduced funding, political issue. What are we looking at in today's world as far as funding for PBS and NPR? Stations are looking for other funding sources. So maybe viewers like you, corporations, etc. So how do we measure TV audiences? Demographic data and viewing behavior. So Nielsen, Media Research Network ratings. So we would have a national sample of about 12,000 people. And then we would send these television meters into people's homes. and have them record what they're watching, when they're watching, so that we can figure out what are the most popular shows and what people are interested in. And of course, advertisers are very interested in this because they want to advertise during a show that will be getting a lot of views, a lot of eyeballs. So Nielsen local market TV ratings, we have about 200 markets. And then 4 times a year, we have something called sweeps, where we have diary and electronic metering. So we might send a diary to someone's house. They can write down what shows they're watching, what time, what they think. And Nielsen would like to phase out these paper diaries and go more to the electronic metering, where they send you a meter to put on your TV in your home. And, you know, talking about your viewing habits, think about your own. So 6 major media companies spent over $56 billion on original content since 2022, which accounts for 45% of their total spending. And it's said now that the average U.S. adult spends about 2 hours and 55 minutes watching traditional television programs daily. There is a decline in TV watching, but there is a shift in media consumption habits. So we still are watching a lot of content. Where we're getting it, that's kind of where it's varying. So TV versus digital video average time spent in the US from 2020 to 2024. So you could see there is a slight decline in TV here using this bar graph. And digital video is creeping up. So ratings, the number of households watching a program divided by the total number of TV households. I want you to remember what rating means and how it differs from share. Share is the number of households watching a program divided by number of households actually watching TV at that time. Now, I mentioned sweeps. That happens February, May, July, and November. Special time periods where local market people meters will decrease importance of traditional sweeps periods. But sweeps are the times when networks will run their best new shows in hopes of getting higher ratings. And that's all we have for our TV unit today. I hope you've enjoyed this. And we'll check back in for our next chapter, which will be the internet and new technologies, the media converge. Take care and have a wonderful afternoon.